saw us just do a headlight. We're going to move on to the Fender installation now. Part of larger panels that you have to consider is getting them, the easiest way to get them onto the car. You saw with the headlight we were able to pull the backing paper off without using a board. Here's where you'll see how we take a bigger panel off. So we're going to use a piece of alu panel. So this piece of alu panel beside me is basically just, it's cleaned, it's squeegeed. I'm just going to spray a little bit of alcohol on the board, and that's going to hold the piece of material in place. Now here's our Fender piece. Everybody has different ways of doing this. I'll actually install film facing the board, but I'll put my piece on upside down, and there is a reason for that. Part of the reason is if you spray too much water on the top, it will run down. If there's anything sitting here, it will dust or anything, even, you know, you might get a little bit of dust that was stuck to your backing paper, and you spray that, you're going to end up with dust and stuff in your film, and you haven't even got it on the car yet. So I always like to install my panels upside down just for ease, because then I can apply more soap to this area and lift up and place the piece of film. So now that the piece is on here, we're going to do the same thing with this piece as we did with the other piece. Now we know the one side is wet, so what we want to do is we want to get the backing paper wet. Again, it's backing plastic, not paper, and again that will stop static, so any dust in the air, if I didn't wet this down, would just basically go right to that adhesive and stick to it, and you have a real problem getting it off. So I'm going to just hose down my fender first. So timing, obviously you don't want to have your panel ready, have it soap on it, go to pull this off, go and do something else and come back and do it, because more than likely you're going to get dust or you know, micro dust in the air that may settle on the film or settle on the paint, and then it causes issues in your install. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hose down our fender here, top to bottom. Now this camera unit here, if you can imagine, it will hold dirt, dust inside and around this thing. So again, using a garden hose or a really powerful sprayer will help blow this out. Again, you also want to think about anything that could lead to, for instance, the A-pillar or this door, if there's something on here and your water's going that way. So you want to make sure that you're blowing that away, and really make sure in here that you're blowing this out. So I'm going to get under it too. Okay, then I'm going to come from the top. Okay, at this point I want to get my soap solution on there as soon as possible, and I just basically going to mist the panel. I don't want to put too much on there, and then I'm going to go ahead and remove the liner from my piece here. Again, spray your hands, try and get anything, if there's anything on there. Lots of water, because you don't want to touch the adhesive with a bare dry hand, because it will cause a fingerprint in the adhesive. Okay, so as I pull it off, I'm going to just go ahead and mist this. Okay, and again, before I grab this piece, I want to make sure my hands are nice and wet, and I'm going to grab it right just very at the tip. I don't want to be putting too much hand on the piece, and I'm going to always walk backwards towards the car, because if there's any dust in the air, that'll reduce the amount of risk picking any of that up during the travel to the fender itself. Okay, so now I've got the film in position. So again, we want to have a slip on the top in order for our squeegee to move around. If you don't, you're going to find it's going to just grab it and shift the film. So at this point, the film is moving on the surface. What you want to look for is different alignment points. Most fenders will always start in the top corner and work it out. So one of the things that you can do, you're noticing some large bubbles here, you can always massage those out just to give you a better reading of how the film is going to sit on the car. Okay, so there's going to be a little bit of stretch involved. You can see here there are some fingers, what we call. We're going to want to get this back area set, and then we're going to make a bit of a pull which will basically get rid of these fingers. If you are basically squeegeeing out and you have fingers like this, it means that you have not stretched the film enough. These should not be here when you go to squeegee them out. So you'll see that in a minute. So again, the film is still moving. Okay, I've got a couple of alignment things that I need to deal with, this camera being one of them, but I'm going to focus now on the top corner. So again, I'll just make sure I got some slip on the outside. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to just basically spray a bit of alcohol in here. So I'm going to look at the line here down the door and this line in the top corner. I'm just going to shift, and again I will start my squeegee stroke from my soap through the alcohol. I'll never push alcohol through soap or push this soap in after I've squeegeed. So I don't now want to, that I've squeegeed this out, I don't want to take any of this soap and push it through that because this, as you can see, is already stuck. So from here I'm going to look at my camera and make sure my alignment is good here. Okay, and then this top part here. Okay, so now again I'm squeegeeing away from my alcohol. I do not want to pull or shift this where the alcohol was, so I'm lightly squeegeeing, because when I stretch this film, here will still move. If you didn't have a soft stroke here, you're going to end up with a line from your alcohol. So we call it a hard line in the adhesive. So we would definitely want to make sure that we've soft squeegeed this out. The other thing you want to make sure is your film is moving. If it's not moving and you squeegee through a spot that's stuck, you're going to leave a mark in the adhesive. So you want to make sure that that's still moving. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to work around this portion here. So I'm going to just slowly come down. It's sticking down the bottom here a little bit. So again, I'm going to soak my hand before I touch the back side of the film. You can hear it when I pull it here. It's sticking. We don't want that. We want to make sure that we have the film still being able to move. So I'm going to go ahead and tack the back end of this one. So I'm just going to spray a bit of alcohol along that edge. And I'm going to come down through my soap and tack that. Okay, now I've got alcohol that's made its way down here. That's okay as long as it's still moving and you don't touch it. So I'm going to come around. So you can see I have a finger here forming here. So the way to get rid of that is to pull down on the film there. And we're actually going to just come around this. Okay, and that you see has removed that finger there. And we're just going to work our way around this light, just pushing that alcohol in there. Again, it's easier if you have a soap on the top for your squeegee to slide on. Okay. Now, another tool you can use is your finger as a squeegee, but it's not a great practice, but you do get some points where you have tension here. So I'm just going to go ahead. The heat from your hand will actually help that adhesive stick. So I'm going to go ahead and load that in there. And just where it's under tension, I'm just going to slowly slide my finger in there, and I'm just going to hold it for a second. And that will now stay. And we just want to wipe it out, make sure that we're good there. Okay, and then we're just going to come across our top. Set this guy down. So you can see, again, we got a tension spot here. So we're going to load the alcohol in there, wash that soap out of there. And I'm going to slowly I'm going to gently just hold. I'm going to squeegee and hold that. And that will hold that down. Okay. Okay, and then I'm just going to wipe it out, make sure that we have nothing that we need to deal with in here. Okay. Good. Okay. So now moving forward, this has been sitting here for a little while I was tending to this camera area. So we want to make sure it's moving. So we're going to take our soap solution. I kind of have a feeling that it's not because it's been a little while and I can see that it's not moving. So what I'm going to do, again, washing my hand. I don't want to introduce any dust or dirt. I'm just going to slowly just get under here and just push some soap in there, right, so that I can get all of that stuff moving again. I'll come in through the top and basically get every area that you didn't squeegee moving again. So now we know it's moving. We can again wipe out some of those big air pockets. This film is still moving here. Okay, so back where we had stopped, we want to make sure that that water made it all the way to that edge, or you'll get, again, a hard line. Now, a lot of people make the mistake of, now, here's our area. We don't want to squeegee through like this. We actually want to squeegee with the line. So where we squeegeed or stopped last time, we want to then, we don't want to go into this line of soap that we've just introduced here, because you're going to end up with another an adhesive line. So we want to softly squeegee with that line, so all the way up from where we had squeegeed before. Okay, and so we're going to be making a stretch here, so I'm just softly squeegeeing. So as I pull, this area will still move because this area is now set, right? So now that I've got this all moving, you can actually see that even this area that I've squeegeed out is still moving as so that's where your stretch is going to be pulled from, is here, not in this area that's locked, because again, you'll leave lines in the film. I'm just going to clean this guy up a bit here, and then we're going to make our stretch. Now you're going to see these guys, as I stretch the film or as I bring the film forward, you see those disappear. Now these kits are designed to not have any of these issues. Some of them you will have to deal with when you end up with maybe a smaller finger, or we'll show you in another video how to deal with a small finger and how to deal with that. So we're going to move forward. Again, this is all moving, so we're going to move forward and we're going to look at some of our alignment points in the front. So some of them are going to be up here, obviously our alignment around the headlight here. So a couple different ways we can do this. We can either start in the middle, we can start at the bottom. Whatever works, whatever is easier for you is usually kind of, you know, there's another alignment point here. You can see that we have an overlap here. We were talking about wrapped edges. So this is a wrapped edge. So there's a corner here that we can align right here, and that's going to take out any of this stuff. Again, film is moving. I'm just going to put a little bit, wash out that soap with the alcohol solution there, and then I'm going to, I never want to touch anywhere where I've put alcohol. I always want to touch on the soapy areas. So you'll see I'm going to basically bring this forward. I also want to keep an eye on this here. So I'm going to just go ahead and try and tack this. Sometimes it'll still move, so we'll need to get a little bit more alcohol in that area to make sure that it tacks. So there we go. So we've got that stuck, and now you see that these guys here have disappeared. So I'm going to go ahead and work to the front. Again, I'm only touching the area where there's soap. I'm keeping my hand moving. I'm getting my alignment here. I'm going to go ahead and set that front corner. Okay, so now I got to make a bit of a pull up. So I want to make sure that this bottom line is set as well. So I'm going to just shift that down a little bit here. Okay, so I'm going to now make sure my alignment here is good. Top corner of the light. I'm going to come up through my soap and tack that. Now I ended up with a bit of a finger here, probably caused by me going from here to here. So we were going to talk about how to get rid of a finger like that. So I'm just going to get rid of the rest of this. Okay, so with this finger, what I want to do is I'm going to sort of lift up, spraying alcohol in there. I'm also going to rub the corner. So I want to make sure that really grabs when I go to squeegee this. Put a little soap on the top. I'm going to come down on this. And then as I end up with this small little finger, I'm actually going to, you're going to see I'm going to slide my squeegee across and spread that finger. It might take a couple attempts to do it, but now that seems to be sitting down good. Okay. So now we're going to work on this front area. So we've tacked here. We've got our alignment all here. We're good. This should still be moving. And now I'm going to come and do our front. I'm just going to lock our front into position, and then we'll get into the bigger portion of the panel here. Okay, so now we can just make our adjustment here. So we got a couple little bit of, so we have alignment line here that we need to deal with. We also seeing a finger here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this edge, but only to about here, and then I'm just going to shift this over at the top to eliminate this. So right now it's kind of hard to see the edge of the film, so I just kind of give the film a wipe very lightly, and you can see I can still adjust the film because I haven't squeegeed it. So now again, because my alcohol has gotten that far, I want to make sure that I squeegee from behind it. So I'm going to adjust, and then I'm going to come in from where my soap is, and then I'm going to go through and get the rest of that alcohol out. Okay, so I've come up to about that point. Now this isn't moving anymore. And again, I've got a little bit of spot here, which means I need to do a little bit of a pull somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to grab the edge right here and I pull it over. You see that disappears. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit of alcohol in here. I'm going to make that pull, and then I'm going to squeegee that section out. And that will lock into position. So now I've let go, and I can now work on the rest. So again, you want to make sure this is moving. It's starting to tack up a little bit. So before I squeegee any of this out, it's really important to make sure that this moves, because right now it's not moving, which means if I squeegee through this, I'm going to leave all sorts of glue marks. So I'm going to go ahead, again, spray my hand, get under the film where I have not squeegeed, coming in from the top. So you can see it was kind of stuck on here. So now that that's done, this is all moving again. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these bubbles. And then I'll make a decision where I want to pull this to. Okay, so again, this has been set for a while. Make your soft stroke through your line, or with your line, not that way. And we got now another line here. So again, we're coming up and down on that. Okay. I'm basically just going to work all that water down and up. So as I roll a corner, a lot of times you'll end up having issues on a corner like this. You'll skip over it. You'll end up with water here. I'm just going to give this a little bit more water, and we'll show you a corner. Okay, so I'm going to come up to my corner, and then I'm going to roll the squeegee. So as I come over the corner, I'm letting the squeegee come over and rolling it. Okay, so again, now this has all been soft squeegeed, so this is all still moving, right? So I'm going to go ahead, now that I know my alignment is good, and I'm going to go and I'm just going to finish this up with some alcohol on this edge here. You don't need to remove all the soap with alcohol. That will dry, but this will make sure it doesn't move as I finish my top edge. Okay, again, another technique you can use, these are flexible, so as I come down, I always want to make sure I'm angling and pushing the water down. I don't want to push it into a dry spot, so I'm pulling away. Okay, and then we can go ahead. Now this won't move anymore because we've tacked this edge. So now I'm just going to go ahead and come up here. You can see I'm using two hands. Obviously we want a bit more pressure so we don't skip over anything. If I one-handed, obviously you don't have as much control. So again, because this is flexible, you can run a corner like that. Just make sure you're angled so the water is getting pushed out, not back down. Okay, so now we're just left with this little front part here. So now that I've done this bigger section, I just want to double check that I haven't left any big pools of water, because sometimes you can skip over things. Again, don't rub too hard. You could shift the adhesive when it's fresh like this. Everything, I don't see anything out of the normal. I don't see any marks. I don't see any dust, so I don't need to go back in there. So I'm just going to finish off this front. Spray my hand first. Okay. Spray the top. Just going to work that bubble out. My hand first. Okay. Again, this has all been squeegeed a while ago, so I want to come up from there. So I had a problem where I hit a bit of water and it pushed it back down. Now you can see what's happened is it's actually I call it ghosting. So that can be repaired very easily, right? You just need to lift up and put some either alcohol or soap solution, either one. Again, clean your hand, bring it back up to that point, maybe a little bit past, and then we'll squeegee over it again, and you'll see that that little ghosting has disappeared. Okay, now that I've got my panel, okay, so here's a perfect example of a finger. So again, this finger is now, every time I push it, it's just going to keep coming back. So I want to, obviously there's a bit of soap in there, but the other thing is that the film is bunched, which means there's too much material there. So I'm just going to load some alcohol in here. Just put a little bit of soap on the top for a slide. And then basically as I come into this, I'm not just pushing it out, I'm sliding it over, which will spread that finger and flatten that piece out. Okay, so now you can see it's sitting down and staying down. All right, so now basically all that's left on this is wrapping our edges. So you see when I have an edge here that's pulling up, it's actually holding away from the film. I put alcohol in there, I squeegee it, it's coming back up. So here's a little trick, is as you spray your alcohol in there, rub that corner really well. What you're doing is you're basically making that painted surface a very sticky area and cleaning it of anything that's allowing it to come back up, and now you'll see that that will sit down and stay down. Just going to bring that up one more time. Okay, so we'll just do a wrapped edge here, and then we'll clean up the fender. We'll move on to a hood. So you notice I was using a pump sprayer for alcohol, or a trigger sprayer for alcohol. We also have, because we do this so much, we also have a pump sprayer for alcohol too. When you're wrapping edges, of course, you want to wash all the soap out really well. So a pump sprayer just moves the water a lot faster. So I'm going to basically be rubbing that inside edge and blowing that alcohol into there and washing any soap that may be left over inside that edge. So I'm just pulling it back, rubbing that. Yeah, okay. You can grab me a hard card, Mark. So again, I've kind of lifted that edge and blown a bit of alcohol. I want to make sure first, before I wrap the edge, that the whole surface doesn't have, or this flat, or your face of your panel before I wrap an edge doesn't have any water in it. Because as soon as you wrap that edge, it's a lot more difficult to come back and work out any imperfections in this portion. Everybody has their own technique. You can use a squeegee to roll an edge. I find that a wet edge works really well. And what I do is basically I can lay it on here, okay, on the surface of the face. And what I want to make sure is that as I come through, I'm applying pressure down and around the corner. So you see, I'll two hands, I'll push around, I'll hold on the corner, and I'll slowly roll. Now, that's kind of sealed that top edge there, and that works very well for rolling corners over. For too long, but what I do is I slow. So I'm going to do it here again. So I'm going to come in, not a lot of pressure, but as soon as I come through the corner, I'm going to start applying pressure, and then I apply more pressure. So I'm pushing down, holding that corner. So I want to check and make sure I haven't left any bit of water here, and this is why I use this tool. Sometimes you can skip over. Okay, just holding there, and then I come back and do my finishing. So I just want to make sure that corner is rolled over and held. Okay, so now we've got that rolled over. We got the top here to do. Okay, I've got a bit of water here. Just gonna pull it back just a little bit. Get this done. Okay. So I want to just focus on this front corner for a second here. A lot of the time on a corner piece, you're going to find if you don't pull the inner edge over enough, it's going to leave a small spot or a finger here in the corner. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, as I go to do this, I'm pulling this edge. And again, I can use the card, I can use a squeegee, I can use my finger, but I want to pull a little bit of tension on the corner, and that's going to make sure I don't end up with a lift point right in this corner here. Okay, and again, you can use your thumb or your finger, you can use a squeegee, you can use this hard card. So I got a little mark right here. I'm just going to bring this back up, make sure I get that out. Okay, and then I'm going to roll that edge. All right. Now I can basically just clean up that bottom. I'm going to run that on an angle so that it's pushing the water or moisture down. Okay, and then I'll check. Okay. So you're going to notice as you go through the film different levels of drying. So for instance, you can see that it's foggy through here, or you may see squeegee lines. Those will go away. It's just some of the film now, like where we had tacked at the bottom, you'll see it's nice and clear. This is foggy because this was just squeegeed out a little while ago. If you go to the back or our starting point, you'll find that it will already be cleared out. It's just the moisture evaporating, okay? And the film is porous, so the moisture is evaporating through the film, and the glue is setting, basically. So I'm just going to go back over, make sure I don't have any issues here. I've got one, I can see a little bit of water here, so I'm going to go into that spot. Washing my hands because I've just touched the rag. Lifting very carefully that spot. Okay, and then just going over that and then checking it. Okay, that's good. So yeah, that's basically the fender, other than this wrapped edge, but you saw it on the top. Just going to touch it up, wipe it down, do a final inspection. That's done, and we'll move on to the hood. All right, thanks for watching this video. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please click on the link below at our website at www.renoson.com. Please like and share and follow us